you're thinking about getting an auto soon or just got your auto, this video is going to be a complete overview on just some tips we've learned, how to get it running properly, what we like about our machine, and what we think, like some features we're going to look out for to get on our next machine that we end up buying. So just kind of a complete overview, what you want to be looking out for before you get into your auto, how flashes work and how the flash setups are. So you know, on a manual, when you flash a print, you need to give it a second before laying on the next thing. And normally what you like when you're printing your white, you print the white, flash it. You print it twice, whatever. Your last layer of white, you flash it, and then in the time that you're printing the next shirt, it gives that shirt time to cool down after the flash. So the thing with the auto is that you can't really do that because it prints on every head, right? It's important to have a flash and then a cooling station if you can, and then your print. So the big shops have like massive autos where they can flash, flatten, print, flash, or wet on wet, whatever the next step is. But they have that cooling station after that flash. That's an important thing to have, because you don't want your inks to cure into the screen or whatever, you want it to lay nice. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to how many flashes you're gonna buy with your auto, and also how big of an auto you're gonna get, because for ours, we have 8 pallets and 7 heads, which means that we pretty much can max out at 6 colors, because one of our heads has to have a flash on it, obviously, because we can have one flash and then put it on our cycles mode. And cycles mode is where it basically it does multiple cycles for each print. So you program it and it'll have like 2 cycles where it goes around, and it's really slow. So we try our best to make our prints get done in 1 round. Yeah, so that's kind of important to know when it comes to like what machine you're gonna get and how many heads you're gonna get. And obviously, like, we have a smaller machine, but I think it also depends on your price range, obviously. So this machine's really nice for like 1, 2, and 3 colors. We can usually get those pretty easily in 1 round, but when it gets to 4, it gets tough, because then we have to do wet on wet, and then anything above that, it has to be cycles normally. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of flashes and cooling stations, and just kind of how that plays into what machine you get. Another thing is our machine has a step back mode, so you can actually flash, step back, print again, flash, and then go. And so that's useful for us when we're doing like 4 colors or even 3 colors, and we need our white base to go down twice, because instead of having to set it up on 2 heads, you can just set it on 1 and it'll do it twice. So that's another important feature. I'm not sure if all machines do that. I just know that the machine we have does. We have an Anatol Volt, and it's been pretty good to us. It took us a while to finally get it up and running. We had 2 heads down. I don't think both at the same time, but we had one of our heads down for like the first few months that we had the machine, and it was just hard to finally get someone out to fix it. But since then, it actually works really nice. But yeah, so one piece of advice that I think we underestimated when we first started running the machine was how important the squeegee angle is. And the reason it's so important is because every ink is a little bit different when it comes to like the thickness, how well it lays. If like an ink's too thin, then sometimes it's hard to get a good solid pass, especially on an auto, because it's much more even pressure and also harder pressure than it is on a manual, which is why in the end you can get the nicer, flatter prints. But we definitely didn't fully understand it in the beginning, and so it took us a while to finally get it. And so one thing we were actually having a major issue with in the beginning was getting our base layer to lay down properly, like our whites or our polyblock, but mostly our whites, just because it's such a thick ink. And so for our base layers, we usually have like a 10-degree angle-ish, 10 to 15. For like our in-between inks, like kind of our athletic golds and stuff, we can do anywhere between like 10 to 20. There really isn't that much of a difference. It seems like you can get away with almost anything. For like our really thin inks, like our reds and our royals, we're normally at like 20, maybe even 25. And so that makes a massive difference, because in the beginning, we didn't fully understand it, and we were like testing some things, and a few times we ended up just doing 2 passes of royal. And I feel like we finally gotten to the point where we figured out the machine and we know the right pressure and squeegee angle to get our thin inks to lay down a nice thick layer that looks like the actual color. Because if it's too much, then it's just really thin. It's a really lighter, like royal or red. So yeah, squeegee angles are super important in combination with the pressure. More pressure just means less ink. Less pressure just means more ink, because it gives it more room. on the screen. So yeah, squeegee angle is really important. Don't underestimate it like we did. And yeah, another important thing when it comes to printing a nice, good base layer or white base is using a flattening screen. And we've been doing this a little bit more recently. We actually are having to redo our flattening screen right now. So basically it's just a screen that you have a Teflon taped to the bottom of, and then you can get these rolling squeegees, and then it actually rolls out the print right after it's flashed. So while it's warm and kind of squishy, you can get it to like be flatter before it goes to the next color. And so it kind of prevents those fibers from popping up and having the next color not lay down well, especially if it's a thinner ink like red. Because if you have any experience with an auto at all, you know that if you don't have a really nice white base, it's really hard to get the really thin inks to lay well. So yeah, a way around this, if you don't have a rolling squeegee and you want to start doing it right away, is to use a squeegee and flood bar and use like clear base for like a lubricant for the squeegee to push down the screen and still have the Teflon attached, obviously. So that's what we've been doing, but I didn't tape it off correctly, so the clear base started leaking out the side. And so yeah, I just need to retape it and retape the Teflon. But yeah, that's pretty useful when it comes to getting that really nice flat print with your top colors coming out nice on top. And I think some garments need it more than others too, because some are just more, they have more fibrillation that's harder to lay down with your white base. Yeah, that's a pretty good little tip that we're trying to use more since we've figured out the importance of it. Another thing that's good to know is kind of how these machines operate. So this one has, I believe, I might not be using the terminology correctly, but I think it's called an indexer, and it's where it locks the pallets, and the pallets move and go up and down. So let me just go ahead and show you. So right now it's locked, so I can't move the pallet. Then I can unlock it, and then you can, like, if you're whatever trying to do something quick, it's faster than moving it manually when it's locked, because when you're printing, it locks up. So right now it's locked, and so when it's printing, it'll just go side to side like this, print, and then it'll go up and then print when the pallets are up. And not all machines are like that. Our pallets come up when it prints. There are heads where the heads go down to print, and I haven't worked with any of those machines, but I imagine there are definitely disadvantages to having the pallets go up, because every time you index over, it'll push up. So if you have a tri-lock on here and you can't move it while it's locked, or you have to be really careful, because when the pallets go up, they can hit the flashes and stuff like that. So I feel like that is an advantage to having the heads go down, because then you don't have to worry about your tri-lock coming up and smacking anything. But I don't really have enough experience on any other machine to have a great opinion. Yeah, that is something to look into. Look at how the indexer works and read into the advantages of having the head go down versus the pallets coming up. Because I definitely know that there are some precautions to having the pallets come up that are a little bit nerve-wracking when you're having other people operate it, especially. So that's something to look out for. Another thing we overlooked was pallet warming. We would kind of use it just to be able to get our glue down, and just literally for the rotations, not to actually heat up the pallets, because we didn't understand how important it is. Heating up your pallets is super important when it comes to getting your inks just to lay down nice, because it allows the ink to heat up. So if you set up your screens and lay your ink on and then do the pallet warming, the ink will get a little bit warmer. And yeah, that kind of just ties into the idea of keeping your inks moving and your inks warm is how you get them to lay down nice, because when they're cold and hard and thick, it's hard to get them to push nicely through the screen. So keeping your pallets moving is really important and warm, so pallet warming is perfect. And so lately I've been just making sure that my pallets are real hot, pretty much as hot as I think they'll get before I start running a job. And I'll actually do that, then throw my glue on and then go. And yeah, that just reminded me. We've noticed that I like using the glue just because I feel like I can do about 100 to 150 shirts before having to replace it. And I'm just running it myself, by the way. So if you have two people and you can have someone stand there and spray the last pallet before the next person loads, and that's perfect, then you never have to slow down. But I can usually throw glue on there, do about 150 shirts-ish, and then redo the glue. If it's some special garment like poly that I'm using a poly block for whatever reason, we notice the poly block seems to seep through the garment. Depends on the garment, obviously, but something weird will happen, and poly also reacts to heat really heavily, so I always spray for poly anyway. If you have one person run your auto, I think glue is a pretty good solution to running as many as you can without having to constantly be slowing down the what's it called, the index speed or whatever, adding delays so that you can add your adhesive. But yeah, palette warming, super important for getting a nice like creamy ink to lay down every time. So yeah guys, that's pretty much the entire auto overview. Might do a part 2 on this. If you guys think it's interesting, let us know in the comments if you learned something. Hopefully it led you into making a better decision or helped you run your auto a little bit better. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time.